Okay, so we like to start every Thursday morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what in the hey nani are they talking about. We give you the actual definition, and then we like to make fun of it whenever possible because really life is short. And you should make fun of jargon. And then we try to give you a working definition that will help you to be able to access whatever the thing is that makes this important, right? So, all right, this for me is a new one. I got to be honest with you, this was not on my radar, even though my son did 5 years of intensive ABA, but I'm hearing more and more about this and parents going, what the heck? IOA. Now, doesn't it look like Iowa without the W? I just keep looking at that going, did somebody spell Iowa wrong? No, IOA. So let's take a look at what this stands for. Our actual definition, it is for Inter-Observer Agreement, and it's the most commonly used indicator of measurement quality in ABA. It's the Inter-Observer Agreement, the degree to which two or more observers report the same observed values after measuring the same events. What? I mean, I look at that and I go, what? And I'm not really quite sure. So let's move on to our working definition and see if we can't get a beat on this. It's the percentage of agreement between observers, and it's the most common convention for reporting IOA and ABA. Did I give that to you, Traven, or did you? Because it just restates the other. Okay, But I apparently didn't send him the working definition. My bad. This is a my bad. So what it is that in ABA we take data. It's not my favorite thing, right? Because here's the thing with data. Data is only as good and as accurate as the person who's taking the data. And so if you have somebody on your team who's not taking data well, then it can mess things up a lot. So I never as a parent wanted to be responsible for it because I was like, I will mess that thing up, right? But let's say that you have 3 therapists on your team, right? And they take data, they do a program with your child, and they take data on it. And 2 of the 3 are reporting kind of the same thing, but one of them is not reporting the same thing. And because of that, it doesn't say in the data that the child mastered the activity. Well, is it that the child isn't mastering it? Or is it that one of these groups is not taking the data properly? And by the way, it could be that the person who's the outlier is the person who's taking the data correctly, right? Maybe the child isn't actually learning it, but because the way these 2 are taking the data, it looks like the child is learning it. Because what's the most important thing at the end of the day? That the child learns it. The data is just the way in which we check and see and measure, is the child learning it. But we don't ever want the data, like if the data is wrong, then we're not getting to the right thing. So every once in a while, we want to check to make sure that everybody is seeing the same thing and reporting the data in the right way. And I'm hearing that at a lot of the clinics now, they're having all the therapists take the data at the same time and having the parent take the data as a teaching tool, and then afterwards comparing, which is, IOA, to see what the agreement is. We were all sitting and watching the same thing. Did we all take the data in the same way? Because what you want is a high level of agreement, that each one of us is looking at and seeing the same thing and reporting the data in the same way. Kind of like, let's imagine for a minute that, mom and dad are sitting there and mom says, well, my child is not listening when I ask him to do something. And then dad goes, what are you talking about? He listens. Right? And it's because people have different perspectives that they bring things to it. But with ABA, we want to make sure that we're looking for the same things and that we're reporting it in the same way, so that we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges and getting it right, because we want the child to progress. And if the child isn't progressing, we will change our tactics. And if the child is progressing, we want to keep them moving. You don't want to have a child stuck doing something that they already know, because that creates boredom, right? So IOA, a really important thing if you're a parent and you are working with your child's supervisor, your child's BCBA, and they say, all of us are going to take data, I know what you're going to feel. You're going to be like, oh, this is how they're going to prove that I don't know what I'm doing, right? I just want you to think of it as a really fun game to see, do I see the same thing that the therapists see? And it's an opportunity to learn how to take the data, because then if they see that you are taking data the same way that they are, and that you are seeing the same thing that they are, and maybe you're seeing the same thing but you're not reporting it the same way, wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to know? But when you get to the point where you're seeing the same thing and reporting the same thing, then your child's going to make more progress. Because when you come in and you say, so we were at McDonald's last night and he did X, Y, and Z, then your team knows that you know what to look for and that what you're saying is accurate. And then we know what to do. Because when we see that a child isn't learning something, we do have the tools to change something and learn, teach them in a way that is effective for them. That makes sense? So IOA, it's something really important, and a parent should not be left out of that. I know none of us are going, woohoo! They're going to ask me to take data. They're going to grade my paper. Woohoo! Right? That is not what any of us are feeling. But if it's what's needed to help your child progress, come on, get on board. Be willing to have a sense of humor about it. Be willing to learn something new. Be willing to not be perfect. None of us had our child and thought, oh, I know, I hope that in a couple of years I get asked to take data and learn that. Nobody thought that, and nobody thinks that you should already be an expert in it. All right, I'm sending you a hug, but this is a good thing to know about.